Hey guys, remember how back during my review on the 1992 movie, I said that I was pushing this review back quite a bit so that way I wouldn't have to wait for a long time to just watch this movie in specific, and that I'd have other films on my plate before getting into this one? Well, given the fact that I found this movie on Tubi, even though as of scripting this as of December 26, 2023, the film is expiring in 5 days, the wait for my review on this movie and the script for it is officially over. This was a review that I was waiting for quite some time to get around to. You may have remembered when I first released my review on the Tom and Jerry comedy show. I released that review earlier than I was intending because of the fact that Tom and Jerry's anniversary was right around the corner, and also it was in preparation for this movie coming out, since, you know, that was the month that this movie was released. I didn't get to see this movie in theaters or on streaming, not only because of the fact that it had something to do with the thing that ends with the number 19, but I didn't have HBO Max back when it was called that, so it took me a while to get around to watching this movie. Then in early July, me and my mom watched this movie, and I didn't like it. Though, that was just first impressions. I thought that my sour feelings towards this movie had something to do with the fact that there was something else I was dealing with at the time. Even though, spoilers, that's not actually the case. I didn't let my thoughts fully develop until I fully thought of the idea for Sean's yearly reviews. Since around 2021 and most of 2022, I was more interested in reviewing shows and had this movie be one of the early films that I'd take a look at. And after watching this movie thoroughly on Tubi, I still don't like it. In fact, my opinion on this film only soured on rewatch. So to get things started, what is this movie about? Take a wild guess. Similarly to the 1992 movie, as well as most other Tom and Jerry movies, this movie, instead of being about Tom and Jerry, puts Tom and Jerry into another entirely different movie. But unlike the 1992 movie, which put Tom and Jerry into a ripoff of The Rescuers, this movie decided to put them into a film about a girl, yes, just like the 1992 movie. She lost her job and is desperate for a new one, before coming across a hotel that is preparing for a wedding. The hotel in particular ends up having a mouse problem on his hands thanks to Jerry, so Kayla hires Tom in the hopes that Tom could get rid of Jerry, all while Kayla lies her way to get whatever she wants.
Don't you worry, I'll be getting to Kayla in just a bit.
To start off with the issues with this movie, because there's a lot of things to go through, let's start off with the animation. And this particular aspect is going to bug me more if I don't bring it up, but this might be because of my own bias, but I really don't like cel-shaded 2D CGI, and it is no different in this movie than in other shows or movies. I always found these types of animation to be very unappealing to look at. It's very awkward, very bulgy, falls into uncanny valley more often than not, and just doesn't sit right. It can be done well if done properly. The Bad Guys is a film that does use this kind of medium, and from the clips that I've seen, it doesn't have these issues, but when not done properly, you get things like Regal Academy or Star Wars Resistance, which are very unappealing to look at, while generally looking and feeling unfinished, because normally, something that looks 2D often doesn't translate well with CGI. It's kind of the same reason as to why I've never liked pineapple on pizza, because something that tastes sweet don't go well with the spicy or seasoned taste of pizza, and for some odd reason, I've gotten weird looks from people for not liking it. Look, if I wanted to taste something sweet like pineapple, I'd have that on top of ice cream, not pizza, because combining that with pizza is just nasty. And that's also the big problem that I have with the animation in this movie. Because of the fact that this movie has CGI implanted in itself, it makes it very, very detrimental to these characters that are very well known to be 2D characters. And considering the fact that this was from Warner Brothers, you'd think that they put more money into this, especially considering the fact that they made Storks, which was able to get the timing just right, and did very well with slapstick. Oh wait, maybe all of that money was hoarded from this movie, because they were clearly putting all of it towards Space Jam 2: A New Legacy. You all know how well that turned out. The biggest issue with the animation in this movie is the awkwardness of it all. It sort of reminds me of Fairly OddParents in its switch from hand-drawn to Flash, but it's worse here, as because of the fact that this movie is using cel-shaded CGI, the movements in specific feel very glitchy and choppy. And also, unlike Fairly OddParents Season 10, there's no excuse for the animation coming out being this sloppy, because this was always meant for theaters, not television. And what makes the animation worse is how it's integrated into live action, as it fails to do the most basic thing you need to do to make cartoon characters look like they're part of the environment, that being drop shadows. It also reminds me of Reanimated / Out of Jimmy's Head and how embarrassing they were with making the cartoon characters look like they're part of the world. Or the Woody Woodpecker movie from 2017 / 2018, which also didn't have drop shadows. Now, I could understand if this film was made for television or a straight-to-DVD movie, but it's not! This movie was, again, intended for theaters. In 2021, no less. Was it because of the pandemic? A lot of films were postponed for that specific reason, so I don't know why they couldn't have done that for this movie. While I am glad that this movie didn't use an actual real-life cat or mouse, because me being a cat lover, I wouldn't want to see one get hurt in the film, what we get here still doesn't sit right with me. How is it that the MGM shorts from the 40s and 50s were able to get the timing right better than this movie does? Technology has advanced since then. Even Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was also an animation hybrid from the 1980s, was more convincing than this. And not just that, but Tom and Jerry Tales, an animated series from the mid-2000s, had more smooth animation than this. But animation aside, how is the rest of the movie? Not much better. To get this right out of my system, so I don't upset a critical human, so that he doesn't throw a fit over this, one positive that I do give this movie is that unlike the 1992 movie and Tom and Jerry, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, there is at least an attempt to be a Tom and Jerry, rather than a Rescuers ripoff that tries too hard to be a Disney movie, and it's not literally another movie with Tom and Jerry in the background of certain scenes. This movie does both make an attempt to be an actual movie, as well as be faithful to Tom and Jerry, but it's honestly a shame that literally everything else had to be sacrificed in order for this to happen. As for starters, this movie is not funny at all. Honestly, the level of humor in this movie reminds me of the humor in Space Jam 2: A New Legacy or the Chip and Dale movie from 2022, where it's just, oh my gosh, do you remember that thing from your childhood? Except instead of other nostalgic products, this movie is doing nothing but referencing other Tom and Jerry products, using the exact same jokes beat for beat, but they're doing it in an inferior way, to the point where I just ask, why bother with this movie when I can get more from the shorts that this movie is taking these jokes from? Getting up to the point where this movie lacks its own identity. I guess the part where Tom tries to get into the hotel with Jerry stopping him is unique to this film, but a lot of this other material you've seen in the original shorts, down to the fact that they have Tom hitting Spike in the head to the point where a bump happens, and Tom tries to stop it by bumping it down with what he hit him with. Movie, you referencing the shorts doesn't make me want to laugh. It makes me wish I was watching the shorts that you're straight up copying instead of the movie itself. It's not even referencing it in a clever way like SpongeBob had been doing as of late, where it references its old jokes in somewhat of a clever manner. This movie is straight up using those jokes verbatim. But when watching the rest of the movie and seeing what jokes are exclusive to it, yikes! I honestly see why they spent a majority of the runtime using the same jokes as the original shorts, because any jokes that this movie makes on its own that have not appeared in the MGM shorts are absolute garbage. Legit, there is an agonizing sequence where Terrence is forced to take Spike out for a walk because, in the movie's own words, Spike ate a lot of burritos, and because Spike couldn't hold it in anymore, he takes a dump on the crosswalk of the road in front of a bunch of cars, to which Terrence is forced to clean it up. A lot of people make the claim that the movie's only jokes are poop jokes, even though I counted, and there are technically only 3 in the film, one near the end, and the other where they decide to use the poop emoji with the fish's thought bubble for whatever reason, but I honestly wouldn't blame you, because these are the majority of the jokes that the movie came up with on its own, and they're all unfunny. But some of the other ones are bad as well. Kayla is addressing the elephant in the room when there are literally elephants outside waiting to come in for the wedding, which is what I'm presuming is the reason that the wedding has elephants involved, so they can make that hilarious pun. And also, movie, just because you have your character admit that Tom and Jerry not being able to speak in the movie gets very old, that doesn't mean that you get out of it all scot-free. And the movie has other issues as well that people have simultaneously overblown and have tried to defend at the exact same time. While yes, the movie does at least try to pay respect to Tom and Jerry, it doesn't make this movie exempt from criticism regarding the writing and the characters. characters. Which, getting onto that real quick, the film is your typical misunderstanding story where the character is a fraud, tries to keep the secret from everyone, which you know is going to blow up in the main character's face because that's how predictable these stories are. Only, in this movie, the character that is lying about who they are is unapologetically lying, whereas at least with something like A Bug's Life, the main character was keeping a secret because there was a lot at stake in that film, as well as wanting to help his ant colony with the grasshopper situation. Kayla in this movie lies without no guilt because I guess she wanted a new job quickly, but she has no excuse for acting the way she did in the film, and Tom and Jerry are used as plot devices in the film, as the reason why Kayla got fired from her job was because of them in specific. Also, Jerry is the one that begins the conflict of the hotel having a mouse problem, and Tom and Jerry end up being the ones who get Kayla caught after she stupidly sends Tom and Jerry out in New York, to which they get in trouble. While I do admire that unlike their crossovers with other IPs, this movie does use them in some way to progress the story. They feel like a way to move the plot forward than actually being a part of the movie. Just like that one episode of Unikitty, only Tom and Jerry are the actual plot devices. And on the subject of the characters, almost all of them are unlikable in some way, except for maybe Tom, as well as the couple that is about to get married. They're just there. Jerry in this movie basically steals the wedding ring from the couple in the film and basically tries to bribe Kayla into letting him stay there, even though he was the one who was causing the trouble in the hotel to begin with. Kayla's co-worker, Terrence, threatens to blackmail Kayla, saying that if she doesn't get rid of the mouse, that he would make sure that Kayla would never be able to get a job ever again. And of course, the worst of them all, and the main reason for my sour feelings towards this film when first watching it, is Kayla. Kayla is awful. Kayla is awful. Kayla is awful! I could just continually repeat this exact same thing over and over again, and not even that can do justice about how awful she is in this movie. You know that infamous clip in this movie where Kayla steals a resume from a completely innocent woman with absolutely no remorse? There are so many other things that she does throughout this movie than just that. What is the issue with Kayla in this film? Well, remember when I mentioned in my review on Duck Duck Goose how the main character Ping also lied to his advantage so he could get whatever he wants? That's literally the exact same issue with Kayla in this movie. Just like with Leap, and how its main character was the exact same level of bland as Bodhi from Rock Dog, both Kayla from this movie and Ping have very little differences to them, to where I'd honestly say that Kayla is just a Rule 63 version of Ping. But where Ping was an egotistical narcissist in that movie, in this film, Kayla is emotionally manipulative. Throughout the movie, she continually puts on this OMG, I'm so sad, feel sorry for me, ooh woo kind of tone, but I honestly don't feel sorry for her in the slightest. Sure, there's the beginning of the film where she gets her life ruined by Tom and Jerry, but that was due to the fact that we didn't know anything about her yet, and that was only her introduction. But put together with all of her other moments in this movie, yeah, I don't feel sorry for her in the slightest. She is completely unsympathetic. But she does make up for what she did at the end of the movie, and the whole issue with her stealing a woman's resume is resolved now. I don't care! The fact that she only made up for what she did because of the fact that she got caught tells me that had Tom and Jerry had not gotten in trouble with animal control, she would have been proud of the fact that she ruined two people's careers. But the only excuse from her being that other people my age are more successful than me. Through her actions, she almost got Terrence completely fired and out of a job, and almost ruined the career of a completely innocent woman. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that Kayla is even worse than Ping from Duck Duck Goose, because Ping at least did what he did out of desperation to prevent himself from dying in the snow. Meanwhile, Kayla lies constantly for no reason when there's literally nothing at stake, so I'm just thinking to myself, nobody cares! There is literally no stakes involved. And as for Kayla lying constantly throughout the film, there's the beginning where she lies to the woman to manipulate her into giving her the resume she has, Kayla purposefully tearing off part of the resume that has the woman's name on it and lying about it as well, saying that a kid caused part of the resume to be torn off, lying about her catching Jerry to the manager, which causes Terrence to be fired in the process.
Lies! Lies! When will the lies end? Lies!
And as I stated before, the fact that Kayla only made up for what she did because of the fact that she got caught is what makes what she did even worse. Which is another thing that really soured my thoughts on the film when first watching it, considering the fact that before watching this movie, I watched Ollie's Pack, which constantly had episodes that were like this, and that is not a good sign at all. So, in regards to Tom and Jerry products, this movie is not the worst Tom and Jerry thing ever. At least this movie has some entertainment to it, unlike the Tom and Jerry comedy show. And this film does have Tom and Jerry do things for the plot, unlike Tom and Jerry Willy Wonka. I'd easily take the 1992 movie over this, because that film at least has some ironic enjoyment to be had. Some aspects of it are not as bad as people made them out to be, and while the film was nothing more than a Rescuers ripoff, I'd rather watch a ripoff of the Rescuers that tries to be a musical than a film that tries to make us sympathize with an unlikable and manipulative human character that doesn't know how to make its own jokes, and when it does a horrendous job at it. I'd easily just recommend sticking with the original shorts than this, or just watch The Magic Ring, Blast Off to Mars, and Fast and the Furry. Your time and energy will be better spent as a result. And with that, the wait of me watching this movie for a review is done and over with.
Everything I